Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the funeral service. If you have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Leonard Matenki.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני ראוי לו אחסר, בנו דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי. דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. שיר המעלות, ממעמקים קראתיך אדוני, אדוני שמע בקולי, תהיינה אוזניך קשובות לכל תחנוני. אם עוונות תשמור יה אדוני מי יעמוד, כי עמך סליחה למען תברא. קיוויתי אדוני קיוותה נפשי ולדברו הוחלתי. נפשי לאדוני משומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר. יחל ישראל אל אדוני, כי עם אדוני החסד והרבה מופתות, והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו. Today is not an unexpected day, but it's a very sad day, as we've gathered to offer words of hesped and tribute to an extraordinary woman, a person of strength and dignity despite years of illness, of gratitude and kindness despite the many challenges she endured, and of faith and joy despite the pain and disappointments of life. Today we remember Esther Tova bat Yechiel Michal, Esther Meyers, Aleha Shalom. I still remember when Esther first came to Chicago back in the mid-'80s, before her many medical challenges, surgeries, and procedures. She was one of the most positive, upbeat people you could ever meet, always ready to help, always ready to learn, always ready to be there for a friend, for family, or simply someone in need. And while the intervening years robbed her of her health, that outlook on life never changed. Whether she could walk or was confined to a wheelchair, whether her hearing was good or compromised, Esther remained one of the most positive, upbeat people you could ever meet. She never complained, and she always pushed herself to do more, sometimes even pushing herself to go places when she could have had others push her instead. And she always had an extraordinary sense of hakarat tov. In this week's parasha, we learn of the prohibition of marrying into the nations of Ammon and Moab because they didn't provide us belechem uvemayim, with bread or water, when we were leaving Mitzrayim. And the question that many ask is, why was that so terrible to exclude them from ever marrying into our people? But even more, how could it be worse than what the Egyptians had done? And despite it, the Egyptians were permitted to convert and marry into the Jewish people. And the answer offered by Rav Avigdor Nebenzahl is because Ammon and Moab lacked hakarat tov. They should have been grateful for having been saved from destruction because of their connection with Avraham Avinu, but they weren't. And nations lacking hakarat tov cannot become part of our people. While the Egyptians, they may have enslaved us, but before then, they also provided us with sanctuary. And because of Egypt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to fashion us into a nation. And for that, even though the goodness was overshadowed by slavery and suffering, we need to have hakarat tov, and they can become fully a part of our people, which is an astonishing explanation. And yet before I heard it from Rav Nebenzahl, I had already learned it from Esther, because she sought out and always found the goodness in life for which to be grateful. Just one example going back many years ago, but one I'll never forget. When Esther was leaving her position at the Associated Talmud Torahs, it wasn't a simple separation. And yet before she left, Esther threw a kiddush for all of us who had worked with her in gratitude for the opportunity for having worked there. It was an unbelievable event. And it was only possible because Esther sought the goodness, the kindness, the tov, even when it may have been clouded by other things, which I'm sure is the reason that despite the many indignities of her infirmity, she maintained her dignity. And it's why so many people admired Esther and wanted to be around her, not simply to help her, but be around her, because her life and the way she lived it taught us what true hakarat hatov is all about. But one source of goodness that she didn't have to seek was the blessing that she had of friends and family who cared for her and who loved her, cousins who regularly visited her, would go shopping for her, would help out, and friends who were there for her as well at a moment's notice. And above them all was her son Nochum, her pride and her joy. Nochum, I still remember when you came into your mother's life, and later when you were little and would come to the Hashkama Minyan at Shul. And I remember the pride your mother had when you went off to Israel for yeshiva, and the combination of concern and pride when you enlisted in Tzahal. But the goodness didn't stop there, because she was so proud of everything you did, especially when Ilana came into the family, and most recently Caleb and Micah. But Nachum, your mother didn't brag, at least not to me. And yet when your name came up, she didn't hesitate to share, because you were, and you are, her legacy. Of course, the last half of the year was the most challenging, as she was hospitalized far away and slowly faded away. But even then, Esther taught me something very important. About a month or two ago, I called her for a final time. Your cousin Larry Merzel had told me that she might pick up, but she didn't, and I got voicemail. So I left her a refuah shlema, and I wished her the best. And she called me back, but I wasn't available, so she left me a message, thanking me as only she could for making the call, but asking, not telling me, but asking that I shouldn't call again because it was too hard for her to speak on the phone. So I didn't, but I wasn't insulted because of the way she left that message, with thanks, with kindness, and simply the facts. Esther had a way of coping and of caring, of doing what needed to be done, whether rolling herself to the front of the shul so she could hear the drasha, or asking a shaila, not on the phone, but via text, and then texting back these effusive words of thanks. She had a way of remembering small kindnesses and being surprised when those kindnesses were returned by others, because she was the epitome of so many things. She was that epitome of so many things that we all strive to be. She was a person of unswerving faith, a master of hakarat hatov, and a loyal and loving friend and cousin, mother and grandmother. And while we know that her suffering has finally ended and she's rising to the highest heights of Shamayim, she is going to that place reserved for special souls. She will be deeply missed. To Nachum and to Ilana, words can't possibly express all that your mother meant to all of us. She was a teacher at heart, not because she ever stood in front of a blackboard, but because she stood in life and taught everyone by being herself. And her passing leaves a great void that can't be filled. It'll be merely covered over with the memories that we have, the memories I pray that Nachum, you and Ilana will share with your children and with each other. On behalf of us all, I ask Esther Toiva Bat Yechiel Michel, Esther, I ask your Mechila for anything we should have done but didn't, did but shouldn't have done. May you be a Melitza Yosher for your family and for all of us. Nafshat Tzra B'Tzra Chaim. And now it's my honor to call up in order first Rabbi Shlomo Tannenbaum, then Alyssa and Robert Hertzfeld, and finally Nachum Meyers.
You know, I've delivered almost 1,700 hespedim in my career. So I'm not often at a loss for words, but today I'm at a loss for words. I can't, even though we, like Rabbi Tank, you said, we knew it was coming, I still can't wrap my head around the idea that we lost Esther. She was always family plus to us. And my wife and her go back to high school. Matter of fact, I remember the first time I met Esther, might have been still in high school. We went to visit our friend Avi Annis, who was a classmate of ours in the yeshiva. And Esther and my wife were there at Avi's house, and I was with a friend of mine, Elchanan Margolis, and I said, "Oh, those seem like nice girls. Who are they?" He said, "Don't even think about it. They're too hot to handle." And so I ended up marrying one of them, and truer words have never been spoken. But he, she was really family plus all the years. My wife spoke to her pretty much every day. We were zoche to have her in our house for Purim Sudas, Pesach, Simchas. Every Simcha we did, or literally until we made a chasana recently. So she wasn't well enough to help us for this, but every other Simcha we did, she ran the whole show. All I had to do was show up to the Simcha, but she did the invitations. From lock, stock, and barrel, and mail merge, and she knew all these chachmas from I guess the AT&T work that she did, and even this chasana that we made recently. As a matter of fact, Nachum called me a few minutes before the chuppah with something going on, and but even that we used the list that she made for us all these years. This week's parsha, Kiseitzel Melchoma. I always felt sort of it describes her that almost from birth she had insurmountable types of challenges. She was born with a serious medical condition that plagued her in various ways. She lost a brother at the age of 15 from the same illness. Her mother was very sickly with the same illness, and she had any variety of harrowing challenges, and I'm going to guess everybody's going to say the same thing. Like Rabbi Matenki pointed out, was really unique was how upbeat and positive she was all the time. If you ask me, pick one pasuk to describe her life, it could be Lama Hareosa Lama Zeh might have come to mind, but her whole life was Ach Tov V'Chesed Yurdefuni Kol Yimei Chayei, and she lived that every day. We over the years we saw her, in some fairly dark moments, and she was able to turn every dark moment into a positive. And she did that for everyone else around her as well. She really was a teacher. When we had triplets, she not only did she come to help my wife, but she moved into the hospital and stayed in the hospital with my wife, helping feed kids and the various craziness that was going on then. And I have to say this, she could have been bitter. She had had a pregnancy that she lost, because of illness. She almost lost her life with that pregnancy. And she could have been bitter and angry, and she was just always there with a smile, with the simcha. And this is a couple of years before Nachum came into their life. And just as I was rolling through different things, I remember we had I work in the ARC, and we had a very delicate situation. We had a young lady who was in a very abusive situation. It was dangerous for her, and we needed a place to hide her out for a number of weeks. We had a place lined up, but it wasn't going to be available for, I don't know, 5-6 weeks. And Esther opened up her home, and not only did this girl stay with her until this other matzav opened up, but the girls kept up with her. I think she eventually finished. She was high school age then. She graduated high school and went away to college, but she used to come and visit and kept up with Esther. She had a remarkable depth of emunah that only got stronger as her body got weaker. And, every day was a battle for her, and she never got angry or militant. Her next, so Kiseitze l'Malchama, she fought, but never with anger, with bitterness. And her next destination now was Eretz Yisrael, which she had a tremendous love for Eretz Yisrael. She often talked about she was hoping she might be able to make Aliyah, and trying to figure out if she could pull it off with her walking issues and other things. So at least now she's finally going to be where the place that she loved. It took a village, and the Hertzfelds, the Merzels, all the caretakers, Nachum and his wife. I mean, just everybody pulled together, and Nachum pointed out that she really had Nachum twisted the world inside out these last many months, and I don't think she would have. I think we would have been here months ago had he not. Had good friends of his own that came through for him and gave her a place to be and took great care of her. So I just want to end that. I want to remember her before all the physical frailties took their toll. She was vibrant. She was kind. She was brimming with life. There were all these layers of calluses that built on her with illness and hearing stuff and walking, etc. She never lost that spark. It was always in there, but it was a little harder to see the last couple of years. And our family feels very fortunate. She was really like a mishpacha in every way, and my kids loved her, and we're going to miss her deeply.
There is little I can say about Esther that you don't already know. She was an open book and had an open heart. Esther loved life. She loved family and friends, and she adored children. And they in turn loved and adored her back. She held a special place in the Merzel and Saffer families, which is so very fitting because family was so important to her. Esther loved being with people. There was nothing that gave her more pleasure than spending time schmoozing with friends and family. She took such genuine interest in all of us and what was going on in our lives, down to the smallest detail, peppering us with questions that no one else would think or care to ask. She made us feel like the center of the universe. And she shared our joy in all of our successes and achievements, big and small, never begrudging anyone for a moment for going places she couldn't go and doing things she couldn't do. And that smile, we will all remember that smile with which she would greet us, regardless of what challenges had been thrown her way, as well as her deep faith, fortitude, and positive outlook. Her emails and text messages contain an alphabet soup of abbreviations of BH, BEH, and IYH, never forgetting for a moment God's presence and role in her life. It is something for us all to aspire to. Esther was a Jewish mother to all, always putting our needs before hers. When she went to the emergency room in April, one of her caregivers, Yaya, who's here, and I were sitting with her waiting for her to be admitted to the hospital. And as I was getting ready to leave, while lying on her gurney, she said, "Wait, Yaya hasn't eaten yet. Can you let her get something to eat first?" We are so fortunate that Esther had two amazing caregivers, Yaya and Corey, who never treated her as just another client. They cared about her physical health and mental health and did everything they could to give her the best quality of life she could have. It gave all of us comfort to know she was under such compassionate and competent care, and we are deeply grateful to them for all they have done. The same goes for their manager, Christine, who was at Esther's bedside at the hospital yesterday morning before I even got there. This is their loss as well. I want to express our gratitude to everyone who cared about Esther, davened for her, visited her if they were able to, wanted to visit her but weren't able to, offered advice and insight to improve her situation, and did countless other acts of kindness for her. She was always grateful for everything anyone ever did for her and never neglected to express her appreciation. Thank you to Rabbi Wolf of the CMC, who was an invaluable source of assistance, making sure meals were brought to Esther in Elk Grove Village, connecting us with Dr. Zare for the feeding tube, providing us with guidance throughout, and doing whatever he could do to help. I found the following note in a folder in Esther's apartment this morning, and I believe she intended for it to be read. After I die, know that I was happiest when with my family and friends, and so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for his help in getting me through every single day, without which I would not have survived even one. Tia Zecha Brucha.
I would first like to thank everyone for coming out here today, and everyone here who over the past couple months or years or throughout her entire life that have always been there for my mother through everything she has been through. She would not be here today if it weren't for you. She would not have made it until today. My mother, Esther Meyers, was born on October 28, 1959 in Rochester, New York. She embodied qualities of strength, resilience, and kindness that left an incredible mark on all of us. From her earliest days, my mother faced challenges that would have daunted many. Born with Marfan syndrome, she confronted physical hurdles that may have discouraged others, but my mother was not one to ever let this be a reason for any shortcomings in her life. I used to always joke with her that she was the closest living employee next to the ATT. Yet somehow she would always walk, and she had the longest commute every single day. I would always fight that I should just cut out a hole in the fence. I don't believe you approve that, but I tried. She was a fighter, a source of inspiration who refused to let her circumstances define her. In the face of adversity, she embraced life with an unyielding determination and unwavering courage, again, always with a smile on her face. My mother's love knew no bounds, extended beyond immediate family to include relatives and friends as well. Her bond with her brother Avi was something that she deeply cherished, and though his time was tragically cut short, his memory continued to be a presence in our lives throughout her entire life. My childhood was enriched by the countless cousins and relatives who felt like extensions of our family, a testament to the welcoming warmth my mother offered to all. Wisdom and determination and sometimes always being right was a hallmark of my mother's life. An example of this was my mother's choice to remove the television from her home when I was quite young, and boy, did I not love that. Though she blamed it on herself, being a self-proclaimed addict of the TV show Friends, she valued genuine connections over, the allure of the screen. Though this decision sometimes is challenging for me, it ultimately led to invaluable moments of authentic connection that I now hold dear. While a family may not have been large by traditional measures, my mother's family extended far beyond blood relations. Countless friends and family members felt as though she was a sister to them. Her compassionate heart knew no bounds. I will always remember whenever I was at my mother's, to anyone that was there, if you ever wrote her a letter or emailed her, she kept it forever. One of the last times I was on her phone in the hospital, I was trying to fix it for many months. And I was looking through her phone, and I saw her emails. There were probably close to 1,500 unread, which was quite astonishing due to the fact that that was pretty much the only thing she would ever do on her phone besides for messaging people. There was no occasional Facebook posts, but that was it. And so I started going through it, and I told her, I said, Ima, I just have to delete this. I have to clean this up for you. And she was so nervous to ever miss a message from a friend or family or relative and not respond. And trust me, if you ever message my mother, the responses were never 2 words or 2 sentences. They were sometimes pages, which sometimes, for a simple question of what would you like for dinner, could get a little much. But that was who she was. She would always take that time. And she always had a pile of tzedakah letters on her either dining room table or kitchen table. And I remember it was a true testament to her unwavering commitment to helping those in need. For some reason, she would never give any money over the phone. I don't know who taught her that, but someone did, and that was etched in her brain. But any time, whether it was the Police Benevolent Association to the State Highway Patrol, just send me a letter and I will write you a check. And I promise you, she always did, every single time. And every letter received a heartfelt response reflecting her dedication to extending her kindness to all who crossed her path. My mother was guided by a profoundly simple yet impactful principle. And my mother never gave up hope. She would always, she had in her apartment signs, and her email signature, I don't know for everyone, but for many, was if Hashem brings you to it, he will bring you through it. This defined her unshakable resilience and her belief that challenges were not roadblocks, but rather stepping stones on her journey. Today, this resonates deeply as a testament to her legacy, reminding us all to approach life's trials with unwavering determination. In every sense, my mother embodied strength, love, and optimism. Her legacy is woven into the lives of those fortunate enough to have known her. Bila amavatz lenetzach u'mach Hashem Elokim dima me'al kol panim.
Please rise for the Kelmole. El malei rachamim shochein b'amromim hametzeim menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim u'tohorim kezor araki amazirim lenishmat Esther Tova bat Yechiel Michal shalcha li'olama Bavur shanu nodrim tzedakah b'askarat nishmata began eden tehei menuchata Lachein balarachamim yastira b'seter knafav li'olamim v'yitzror b'tzorah chayim et nishmata Adonai unachlata v'tanuach v'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen.
The Kfur will take place Thursday, approximately 12:30 p.m. at Har HaMenuchas, Section 29. Nachum is going to be going to Israel. He'll be coming back Friday morning. We'll be sitting Shiva through Wednesday morning at 6800 North California Avenue, apartment 1F. Shachos every morning at 8:30. Friday, we'll post on our website once we have confirmed the time. We might need some help from Minyan a little later on, but that information will be updated Thursday afternoon. Please remain standing as we escort the Aron from the chapel. We'll have an opportunity to do a little Levias Mass outside, and then we'll go back to our vehicles.